The film begins by showing a small village in America that was situated in the middle of the forest. It means the village was surrounded by forests. These people always live in their village. They never leave this place. Weird and dangerous children of monsters live in these forests. They're half humans and half monsters. If someone mistakenly went out of the village and came into this forest, and that human came into the eyes of the monsters, then the monster killed that human. For this reason, they never leave their village and go outside. Rather, they fixed a fence around the village, and there are big walls so the dangerous monster couldn't enter their village. Neither could they go into the forest. One day, the health of a man's son deteriorates because he had a dangerous disease. Even after his treatment, he wasn't taken out of the village. Rather, he was kept there and treated. That was of no use, and that man's son dies. As a result, the man breaks down. While we are burying him, he cries a lot while sitting near his dead body. Because his son was too young. When he was being buried, he told his dead son, "I wish these monsters hadn't been in this forest. I would have taken you from the forest and treated you, so you would be here with me today. There is no idea how long we've got to live in this evil village." Saying this, he started to cry a lot again. Later, all the villagers started to eat meals. Later, they begin to hear horrible sounds from the forest. As a result, they panic a lot. There was a crazy boy in the village. He began to laugh and said, "Do you know whose sounds they are? These are the monsters because they're coming here." Saying this, he laughs more and begins to clap after standing, so they get scared a lot. They were spending their lives in fear. They were all living like a family in this village. They've kept many animals in their farmhouses. They cook them to satisfy their hunger. To look after the village in the farmhouse, every night a man guards them. They also feed meat to monsters and wild animals. Sometimes goat's meat, sometimes chicken, and sometimes cow's meat, so after eating their meat, they could satisfy their hunger. So they could never enter their village. When two girls were cleaning this area, they saw a red flower at a place, which means there was a red flower plant there. They pluck it and bury it in the ground immediately. From this we can understand that the color red isn't good for them. It is a sign of danger for them. Now everything was there in this village, like a school to teach the children, and a small hospital for treatment, and a farm for the job. When a teacher was going to school to take the class, he sees many students gathered at a place. They were standing near a dead bird. Its condition was so strange because there was no skin on its body. The children were terrified of its state. The teacher brings them to the class. They asked the teacher in fear, "Has that strange monster come into our village and is killing the animals in this way?" The teacher replies, "No, nothing is like this. Just think, have we gone to their forest, then why would they come to our village? This is the job of a wild animal, not a monster. The wild animal may have killed him and thrown him here." On the other hand, we see some elders at a place. They've come for the meetings. They often have these kinds of meetings, in which the decisions of the village are made. Meanwhile, the doctor comes and says, "We've built a small hospital in our village, but there is no useful medicine. Not only useful, but now there is no medicine. We don't have any medicine for our use. For this reason the man's son died, and many people are not being treated. If you permit me, I'll go to a town by the way of the forest and bring some medicine for our use. At least, people could be treated with small-scale treatment." Now, the villagers find it risky, and they don't permit him to do this. So they clearly refused. Tonight, the doctor's friend had the duty of protection. When he was doing his job there, the doctor also comes there. He asks him, "Don't you want to see the world outside the village?" "I want a lot," and his friend replies to him, "Not at all. Because my mom told me that there are quite dangerous and cruel people outside the village. And we're all living like a family in this village. So I love my village, and I could never go outside of it." The next day, all the villagers gathered at one place, because someone killed all the dogs in the village and also ripped off their skins. So all the villagers became very afraid. For this reason, all the villagers gathered for the meeting. The elders tell the villagers, "Don't be afraid. This must be the task of any wild animal, not one of these monsters. If these monsters had come to our village, we would have known because of their size, and we've already made all of the arrangements. If they enter here, we'll know. But still, to end their fear, we'll check the fences around the village and the walls as well. What if a monster enters after breaking them? Still, you should live easily and tension-free. Now the eldest daughter of the teacher comes to him and says, "Dad, I want to talk to you. I love the doctor and want to marry him. So please settle my marriage with him." He asks, "My daughter, does he love you as well?" She says she doesn't know, because I didn't tell him about my love until now. Today, I'll tell him and also ask about marriage. Later, she goes directly to the doctor happily and tells him, "I love you so much. I like you so much that I'll marry you." The doctor breaks her heart by saying, "I don't have any interest in marriage yet, and I like someone else who belongs to this village as well." Now, the doctor rejects her love. As a result, she breaks apart and begins to cry a lot after coming home. Then her younger sister takes care of her. At night, the doctor goes to the house of the man whose son died. The man here begins to talk about his son with him. When he was listening to him, his eyes go to the black box there. The next day, the crazy boy comes and meets a girl. She was his friend, and her name was Ivy. This girl is no one else but the second and youngest girl of the teacher. The crazy boy and Ivy were together, and meanwhile the doctor also came there. Ivy tells him, "I and you used to be good friends in childhood. You also had a friendship with my sister, but you rejected her love because of what she cried after coming home. Now she is quite sad, and that's why she's getting married to another boy. After that, it will be my turn to marry." During the conversation, the crazy boy keeps a red-colored fruit in Ivy's hands. Seeing what she sees, Ivy closes her hands and hides that fruit, but the doctor sees that fruit in the hands of the crazy boy and begins to tell him that this is a red-colored fruit, that the monsters can easily see and get attracted to it. For this reason, no red fruit is grown in our village. Then from where did you get this fruit? The crazy boy points towards the forest. The next morning, the meeting of the elders was held again. The doctor told them that the crazy boy went into the forest and brought the red fruit. Look, the wild monsters didn't harm him. He came back alive and sound. It means there is not much danger in the forest. My purpose is that I want to go outside the village by the forest road, so I could bring useful medicines from the nearby town. But this time too, all the elders refused him. After being upset with this, he comes back to his home. He begins to tell his mom, "I want to go outside the village to bring the medicines." His mom explained to him, "When you were about to be born, one day, your dad went outside the forest to buy something. First, some robbers looted his luggage. Later, they threw him near the stream after killing him. Then just think how cruel the world is. You're insisting on going out for the betterment of the villagers. I only have you with me, my only son. What would I do if something happened to you? Where will I go?" During this conversation, the doctor sees the black box in his house too, that he saw in the house of that man whose son died. He doesn't know what is inside and begins to ask his mom, "How is this black box? I've seen this in every villager's house. Tell me what is inside." But his mom rejects it and says no, it is against the rules of the village. The next day, the doctor goes to the forest with courage. His eyes go to the red fruit and he begins to pluck it. During this time, we can notice that the monster is standing far away and observing him, but he isn't harming him. At night, the doctor goes to Ivy's house. He tells her about his trip outside the village. She begins to explain to him that going outside isn't a good thing. Your life could be in danger in this way. He finally says for how long we'll stay in this village, where this is not a basic facility. There is no medicine. If someone gets ill, he'll be dead because he didn't get treatment. Later, all the villagers will die in this way. If we had medicines here, then a lot of people would have been cured, like the son of that man and many other people. Ivy tells him to calm down. We'll not talk about this topic anymore. Do you know that my sister's marriage is fixed? If someone likes me, he could come to my house for a proposal. Saying this, she goes inside the house while shying. The next day, when the doctor's friend was guarding, he heard a strange voice and he got scared. When he looked down, he saw the monster standing there. The one who had a red dress. Additionally, his back was strangely jagged. He got scared. He immediately rings the alarm so the villagers get alerted. Hearing the noise, everyone becomes aware of what happened. They begin to go to their homes immediately, but the doctor doesn't run. Rather, he silently stops at a place and sees the monster. To be saved from the monster when Ivy's family was going into the basement. Instead of going with them, Ivy goes outside the house and stands there, because she was waiting for the doctor's arrival. She didn't close the door, although her family calls her by shouting. But she wasn't the one to go without the doctor, when the monster was about to come near Ivy. In the meantime, the doctor comes to Ivy's house. He gives her his hands, but Ivy can't see him. He pulls her hands together and takes her inside the house. He closes the door hard. Now they all hide in the basement. After a while, the monster leaves the village and goes back to the forest. The next morning, everyone notices that the monster has made a red mark on their doors. Now the villagers held a meeting. It was talking about the fact that the monster has not come to our village till now. Now he has come to our village and made marks on our doors. That is a kind of warning for us. He is trying to threaten us, so no one can go to the forest. Now tell me the truth. Who went to the forest? Who went there and instigated him to come? Hearing this, the doctor instantly stood up. He said he went there. And this all happened because of me, but my intention wasn't to instigate the monster. But still, I've made a mistake, so please forgive me. After today, going into the forest is another matter. But I'll not even look at the forest, as he has confessed his mistake. The people have forgiven him by saying that this time it has happened, but never make this mistake again. The next day, Ivy's sister's wedding was held and all the villagers were there. They were eating the meal at a restaurant. Later they have a party, and they dance a lot. Along with them, they give a party to the monsters and wild animals by feeding them food. Today they give them a lot of chicken and goat meat, so they could be fed well. Ivy's mom comes to her and begins to tell her, "I had a sister who is your aunt. Seeing both of you together today has made me think of my sister. Some people did wrong with her and later killed her." When everyone was enjoying the marriage, they heard a woman shouting from outside. When they go out to check, there were many dead bodies among the animals. Their skins disappeared from their bodies. Seeing this, panic spread. They get afraid and begin to go to their homes. The doctor didn't go, but he came and sat outside Ivy's house. Then Ivy came and sat near him. She begins to ask him, "Why are you sitting here alone outside my house?" He replies to her, "So nothing could happen to you. If the monster comes, I'll fight with him and save you. I always wanted to see you safe and sound, because I love you so much." Here, she also confesses her love. Here we can understand that the doctor rejected Ivy's sister because he loved Ivy, about what he had told her. Well, the next day the villagers come to know that Ivy and the doctor like each other. So the decision is made to make both of them married. When the crazy boy finds out, he thinks that Ivy is my good friend. She spends time with me. If she gets married, she'll be separated from me. Thinking about this, he had a strange idea in his mind. He secretly goes to the doctor's house and stabs a knife into his stomach so he can die, because if he doesn't remain alive, Ivy won't get married to him. Later, the crazy boy colored his hands with his blood and shows it to the villagers. Seeing what they become afraid of, they begin to think that he might have harmed someone. With this thought, everyone begins to check their houses. To whom had the crazy boy made injuries? Ivy nervously comes to the doctor's house. She learns that the crazy boy has attacked the doctor, and he is quite injured. A doctor from another village was called immediately. He just put an ordinary bandage on him. Later, he says that he has bled a lot, so it is difficult for him to survive. Hearing this, Ivy gets quite worried. She goes to her dad and tells him, "Dad, I love you a lot. If he dies, I'll die too. I want to go outside the village to bring medicines for him, so he could be treated. If the monster kills me in the forest, I'll be happy to die. At least I tried to save him." Hearing this, Ivy's dad goes to the doctor and begins to ask about his health. "Is it much worsened? Can't you treat him?" The doctor says he has bled a lot. "I've done whatever I had to. Now he needs medicines." Only then he can be saved. Hearing this, Ivy's dad comes to her and begins to talk to her. Your grandfather was a rich man, but he was unable to distinguish between good and evil people. One day, a thief came and killed him after shooting him. If someone or the monster kills you, what will I do? What will happen to me? Have you thought about this? But still, he is your husband-to-be, and if you want to go for the sake of the doctor, you're permitted to go. Saying this, she takes the injured doctor to a place. Her dad begins to tell the townsmen that my daughter wants to go outside the town, so she could bring medicines from there. To which they ask him, haven't you told her how dangerous it is to go outside the village? To which he says, yes, I told her and made her understand. She won't listen to it, because she can give her life for the doctor. After that, Ivy leaves for the town. 2 town boys also get ready to go with her. They begin to move by the ways of the forests. After a while, it started to rain. Then they set up their tents and sat down. Later, they hear the sounds of the dangerous monster, and after being afraid of him, the 2 boys run away. Ivy was left alone, and she was afraid too. After coming closer to a tree, she begins to recall her dad's words. When her dad took her to a house, there was the same dead monster that her dad asked her to touch. Ivy was afraid, but she touches the dead monster with great difficulty. Later, she came out of that thought. Ivy's dad comes to her and takes her to a place, and begins to tell her that this is not the monster but its mask. Let me tell you the truth. There is no such monster in the jungle. So you can go to the town by the forest without being afraid. All of the elders have told a lie to the villagers. Ivy got shocked and began to ask about the strange sounds that came from the forest. But we feed those monsters food. These monsters come to our village, and after killing our animals, they rip off their skins and eat them. What was that all about? Her dad begins to tell her, my daughter, we do that all ourselves, so no one could come into the jungle. Those sounds and the feeding are all lies. We do it. After feeding them, we eat that food. Speaking of the animals, we've killed them too. Only the elders of the village know this. Today, you've learned it too, so you can go without any fear. Later, Ivy again begins to go towards the forest. While recalling her dad's words, she was trying to cross the forest with great difficulty. The poor girl also fell into a pit, and she came out of it with great difficulty. During this time, we can see that the monster is chasing Ivy. Now the question arises, were these monsters fake? Then who is he who has become the monster? We'll learn its answer later. Ivy also felt it. She got afraid and hid behind a tree. She feels that the branches of this tree are quite sharp. When the monster comes ahead to attack her, she goes aside at the right time. The sharp branches go inside the monster. As a result, the monster died on the spot. There, the villagers come to Ivy's dad and tell him, why did you break the rules of our village? Why did you not stop Ivy? Why did you let her go? Hearing this, Ivy's dad tells the whole matter truly, and the big secret of this story is revealed here. He says a thief killed my dad a long time ago. My wife's sister was killed by some people. The doctor is injured and his dad was killed by a thief. Every house in the village has a story. One of their family members is killed by the cruel people of the outer world. Everyone has lost loved ones. After losing our loved ones, we began to live sadly. We went into depression. We went to a hospital and had our treatment. All of our families met there. We felt that these people had become mad for the money. They become quite cruel. Whoever has the money, robbers loot them and kill them later. What if we don't have the money? We would not be afraid of anyone. No one will harm us. So we came here and made our village in the middle of the forest. We set a rule in this village that no one would go outside. Now that they were grown up, the children asked questions. So the children can't go out of the village. They begin to tell them a story. That a strange monster lives in the forest. If we go out of here, the monster will eat us. Additionally, to create more fear of the monster, they made the mask for the monster. They began to make noise after going into the forest. After coming to the village, they begin to kill animals and rip their skins off, as they did on the night of the wedding. They cruelly killed their animals and ripped their skins off to make them scared. Now the box is at every house. In that way, everyone has kept their memories of that time when they lived in their towns. This mask of the animal was in every house. When the parents of the crazy boy come to their house, they find their house in a bad state, like the floor of the house was broken. And the mask also disappeared. From this, we can understand that the one who attacked Ivy was no one else but the crazy boy. When he saw that mask in his house, he liked that so much. He begins to follow Ivy as a joke. What does he know about how this joke will go wrong? That will cause my death. The branches of the tree will tear me apart. On the other side, Ivy crossed the wall and came onto the road. There, she finds an officer. After giving him the receipt, she tells him, "I have come from the forest. There is a village in the middle where many people live. I also live there. I have an emergency, so please bring that medicine." First, the officer doesn't believe Ivy's words, thinking that who lives in the forests? As Ivy said, it is an emergency. So the officer brought and gave her the medicines. After taking the medicines, Ivy returns to her village. She tells them all what happened to her. That the monster attacked me there, but I cleverly killed him. I safely went to town and returned after taking the medicines. Hearing about the monster, the parents of the crazy boy understand that he might be our son. They feel sad to hear about his death, but Ivy's dad makes his parents understand. Don't be sad because your son did well for our village while dying. Because now all the villagers must believe, yes, a monster exists in the forest. The one who attacked Ivy, this will have one benefit. We'll spend our lives in the village. Our children will not talk about going outside. Neither of them will question anything. This process will continue. And the film ends with this.